What is up, everyone? Welcome to L2R2 PlayStation Podcast. My name is Fonzie. I'm joined by my co-host, Callum Monroe from across the pond. You're back across the pond. How you been, Callum?
Yeah, good. Yeah, adjusting to the lots of time traveling I've been doing, but yeah, no, yeah, all good. All caught up. I think I'm sort of back to normal. Although the clock on my computer has been broken for a while, so that's not helping. It keeps sort of saying really strange times, and I just don't know what to believe anymore.
Can't you just adjust it? Is it like it's stuck doing its own thing?
Yeah, it'll be the little like battery on my motherboard. I just have to basically hopefully just take it out and put it back in, then it will sort itself. Because I've reinstalled Windows, hoping that would. I mean, that wasn't why I reinstalled Windows, but it was something I'd noticed. So I thought by reinstalling it, it'd fix it. But yeah, no, it seems deeper than that. So
It's
that'll be
like
fun.
there's a thing with like handyman, like professional handyman that work in other people's houses, but their house is falling apart. So like you
Yeah,
do IT, but your
yeah,
computer is still like in the worst shape all the time.
yeah, yeah. I think it's because like I know whether it's like a serious problem or not. So normally, like if you don't know that much about computers, as soon as something's wrong, you're like you sort of desperately need to get it fixed. But I'm just like, yeah, it's only the clock. It doesn't won't break anything. So but yeah, and I think also it's like down to the fact like I never want to do work on my personal computer. Like I never want to fix anything. So that's why I do at work all day.
Right.
I just leave everything broken instead. When it comes to my home computer.
Does that mentality transfer over to when you're on the job, when you're at work, working on other people's stuff, where it's like if it's kind of a small problem where you're like, yeah, just get over it. It's like, does it work still? Okay. And then you just like move on to the next job.
No, actually, when it comes to other people's stuff, I'm very like I want it to be like as perfect as possible. Um, but yeah, when it comes to my stuff, it's just like,
Yeah.
ah, I don't, I don't care.
Nice, Cam. Well, I looked it up. So it's been a month since we talked and you were jet setting around the world. You went to
Yeah,
Vancouver. How was your time there and what'd you think of that city?
yeah, it's lovely. Yeah, it's very like picturesque. Lots of mountains around it, which is quite in. It's like a very interesting place for a city to kind of be. Um, yeah, but yeah, it was nice. It was I'd probably say similar weather to the UK, like cold and but also sunny sometimes and
Hmm.
snowing and raining and kind of all the weathers at once. Yeah, no, I enjoyed my time there. It was nice to get home just because you have that like kind of familiarity of how things work, like currency wise and asking for things that maybe don't exist, sort of across the world. So yeah, it was nice to be home. But yeah, enjoyed my time over there.
Were you able to, I'm not sure lockdown wise over there, like were you able to do anything fun or was it kind of, you're just stuck in a room?
Yeah, so I pretty much every night. So I had like the first weekend there, and I sort of had the chance to like walk around the city and get to see everything and have some nice food and things like that. And then every sort of evening after working, I'd just go out as well. And so I got to see quite a lot of the city. Not nothing sort of like eventful or like planned or anything. It was more just like taking in the sights and getting to sort of understand Vancouver a little bit, which was fun. It was good. I mean I was only there for a week, but it was a good amount of time to spend in the end, I think.
Now with Vancouver, I know with a lot of other Canadian area cities, like there's a heavier French influence. With Vancouver, was that there as well? Like, were you hearing people speak French and that kind of thing?
Not necessarily just French. I mean, there was like French signage and things like that, so it was obviously like it's obviously a thing there, but it's very like just multicultural in general. Like there's all sorts of sort of people there. It was really nice. It was kind of reminded me of like somewhere like London, where yeah, there's no real like it's a very yeah just diverse place, which was quite nice. But but yeah, there was definitely like yeah, French kind of translations on menus and things, which was interesting.
What about they use? I was there maybe like more than 10 years ago. It was right before they had an Olympics there, and I drove up for a concert, and I had to get used to the whole coins thing. They had these like loonies and toonies or whatever. They're just like these common coins you use. They were like I think they're like $1 or $5 kind of currency. Did you use that, or were you using like a card the whole time? How did you get around like paying for stuff?
Yeah, so I had some sort of cash to use, but yeah, it was very confusing. Just didn't really understand, especially when it got to the coins. Didn't really know what was going on, but I think the most confusing thing for me was I was sort of getting back to the airport on the last day, and I sort of stumbled upon like a metro station. So I sort of thought, oh, I'll take this. And I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to buy a ticket. I didn't understand what it was asking of me. I didn't know if the ticket I was buying was sort of enough to get me to where I was going. And well, there's and luckily there was a really nice man who was sort of there, and he just came over and told me how to use it. So but he did then ask for sort of some money because he helped me,
Hmm.
which I actually thought I kind of appreciated the kind of effort that he went into. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's a
thought
fair
it was
transaction.
it was quite charming. You know, it was quite like he was a really nice guy as well. So there's definitely some fun sort of moments. But yeah, it was overall yeah nice to kind of. Sometimes I like to go away just so I can come back, if that makes sense. Kind of like
Hmm.
lets you quite kind of feel nice about being home. So yeah, it's been nice.
Yeah, that when you said that story, I picture you walking around as a child and like with just coins in your hand and like one of them's a button. You're just like, "Is this enough?
Yeah.
Is this? Can I
Yeah.
get this thing? Can I buy a sandwich?"
Yeah. Yeah, I had absolutely no idea.
Nice. Well, you're back in the UK. How does it feel back after that trip? Like, is it change of perspective, or it's just nice to be back in familiarity?
Yeah, I think it is just it's kind of like I guess you're kind of going through the motions sometimes. So in a way, it kind of helped break up that and kind of give me like a nice like got back into sort of like a fresh sort of week here. So it was definitely a nice yeah way to break up the sort of norm. Um, but yeah, it was the end of that wasn't there for terribly long, but definitely there sort of long enough to you know have a nice time. But yeah, I think it's maybe I keep thinking it might sort of catch up with me, but I think maybe I've managed to kick the jet lag by sort
Mm.
of sleeping on the flight back and everything, but I don't want to speak too soon, just in case it's a big delayed one.
Yeah, because that's a good amount of time. Because you're 8 hours, I want to say, roughly
Yeah,
ahead, and so just going there and back, it's gotta mess with you. But you're right, where it might take some time before you feel it.
yeah, yeah. Hopefully, I've done it. Hopefully, it won't be in like 2 years' time where suddenly I'm just like really tired for like a week, and it's just
Yeah.
waiting to get me.
And with the UK, now that you're back there, is it? I haven't looked it up recently, but now overall, it seems like we're kind of getting out of COVID for the first time in 2 years, where it feels different now. Is it kind of
Mhm.
that same feeling in the UK? Is stuff starting to open up a little bit?
Yeah, I think I mean things have been sort of open pretty much as usual for quite a while now, but it's always been like you have to wear a mask if you're, you know, not sat down and things like this, and still sort of some restrictions. But yeah, now you don't have to wear a mask anywhere, unless it's like a hospital or you know something like that. Um, and yeah, so it's relatively eased now, pretty much. But yeah, it's quite recent a recent thing to sort of remove masks completely. But it's quite nice. You see people, you know, they still wear them, and you can see sort of the lasting impression that it's had on people now that things are starting to ease.
Yeah, I think it's gonna stick around. Whether
Mm,
hopefully we're out of it this time, but I think that mass mentality is gonna stick around. And at the very least, it's like it keeps us from getting just regular sick, so that's good. But I find
yeah,
myself because I've been excited for a while to not wear the mask anymore, but I also think I don't want to see people's faces or have to show my face. So I kind
yeah,
of like the idea of just still wearing it because it's just like I
yeah,
don't want to show you my face.
yeah. Yeah, I never really minded wearing mask. I think it was actually when I went over to Vancouver, I had to wear the mask the entire flight, like
Mm,
both ways, and that kind of put me off a little bit because it kind of made me feel like I was like making myself ill just from like breathing in such like a confined space for such because it was like just under 10-hour flight, so it was a long
jeez.
time to have sort of like your mouth constricted. So I think now is I'm kind of like, yeah, it's quite nice to not have to wear them, but normally, yeah, I mean, it is polite. It's always they're easy to just have one on you, and you can kind of like read the room. I think is the best way to go going forwards. Because but the problem is, like, as soon as something's lifted, people are like, all right, back to complete like normal now. But yeah, but the good thing is, yeah, like I said, I'm still seeing people be careful and cautious, which is always good.
Yeah, and planes are the worst because it's basically like a metal fart tube. You're just breathing everyone's air. I know they say like, "Oh yeah, we recirculate or we, bring in new fresh air." It's like I highly doubt it. I just think that you're just smelling everyone's stuff and it's all just going around, and maybe the mask will help with that. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah, not a fan of flying. It's just weird, isn't it? It's just everything about it is just, yeah, very strange. Don't like it.
How was what did you do for time to waste time on your flight? Like, did you take anything, you reading or playing something?
So on the way there, I watched a couple of films. I watched The Last Duel, which I know you watched and
Yeah, what'd
liked.
you think?
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. Yeah, I really liked the way it was sort of told through the multiple stories, and
Right.
yeah, I thought it was great. I really really enjoyed it. And I also watched Last Night at Soho, which was Edgar Wright's new
I need to watch that, man,
movie,
and I was
which
so
was good as well. Yeah,
nice. I love his movies, and it's just for some reason that one passed me by, and you can rent it, you can watch it now. I need to set the time to watch it.
yeah, yeah. It was really good. And yeah, on the way back, I mostly just slept. And but I played a little bit of the so I caved and bought one of the Pixel remasters of Final Fantasy on mobile. I bought the Final Fantasy 5 one, so I played quite a lot of that on the plane ride home, and yeah, mostly slept. So I was hoping to like watch quite a few films, but when I was actually there, I was just like, oh, it's actually quite comfy. I'll just sleep
Yeah.
for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, you could watch at least one Lord of the Rings there and back, with how long they are. It's like I'm surprised you didn't just marathon through those.
Yeah.
Nice, Cam. Well, it's great to have you back. We could jump into. I try to avoid like a month's worth of news, so I just kind of found the biggest stuff. But before we get
Yeah.
into that, I know you've been busy, but have you been able to play anything? We had some juggernauts drop. We had Gran Turismo 7. You had Horizon. Did you get to play anything this past month?
Yeah, I've been playing. So I've actually just come off to sort of jump on this Horizon 2. So I've been playing that for maybe the past like week or so. Not too much, sort of on and off, but yeah, I think that's basically what I've only been playing. Haven't really been playing anything else.
How far are you in, and what are your kind of early impressions?
So I don't want to. I don't know how far you are, but so without spoiling, I've just done the embassy part. So I'm about to like go into the west.
Okay, gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, I'm
Um,
I'm around. I need to look up the actual hours played, but I've pretty much unlocked the majority of the map, and I feel like story wise, I'm close to the end. But
yeah.
how you feeling just with jumping back into it?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's awesome. It's probably just like get any negatives out of the way. It's probably like the buggiest PlayStation exclusive I've played before.
Mm,
I think it's a little bit ropey at times, but not in like performance, just in like strange things happening or yeah, just yeah, weird technical kind of glitches, but nothing like at all that impacts anything. Like it looks amazing. The combat is much better than I remember, and it works really well with the controller as well. And I think the story's it's probably not as maybe as center stage as it was in the first game for me, but the kind of little stories that I'm finding, like the little side stories and side quests, are really, really interesting. I'm just, yeah, I don't think I've really got far enough in the main story to really, I don't really understand what the main arc is quite yet. But yeah, the little side stories that and side quests I've come across have been really nice, and yeah, really, really enjoying it so far.
yeah, I had to watch a kind of a recap of the story before I got into the second one, and I realized there's so much that I totally forgot happened and
Yeah,
was revealed in that first game,
yeah,
and just like which I guess spoilers for the first game, but you realize that Aloy is a clone of that doctor from 1,000 years ago, and I completely forgot about that and how the actual world crumbles in the first place. But
yeah.
recapping on that and jumping into the actual story. I'm digging the story, but it was never. I never thought it was a strong suit of Horizon. I
Mm,
found the which I think they've improved on in the second one, but I found the cutscenes interactions with people were very just awkward the way they would
mm,
kind of talk to you. But I think they have improved greatly your one-on-one interactions with people when it's these kind of cutscenes that are in engine. It's just
mm.
incredibly beautiful. It's like so realized with the people you're talking to, and it's just insane how it's hard to not talk about just the visuals with the game, but it's like across the board, it's just this next level of graphics that it's awesome to see, and it's kind of it's hard to believe that this is in engine and you can jump in and out at any time.
Yeah, it looks great. And yeah, especially like you said, like the interactions and the cutscenes, they do look really good, and they kind of make it easier just to kind of sit down and enjoy what's sort of being said. Um, but yeah, I think it's definitely, I think yeah, it's definitely probably got a higher production value in sort of that sense, for sure. And yeah, it plays really great. I mean, the combat's definitely been the best thing about it from what I've seen so far. Lots and lots of weapons and tools. It's kind of a bit overwhelming, still is at the moment for me, but I'm sure it'll all sort of level out. But um, yeah, just the multiple different ways of fighting all of the multiple different enemies, and if you kill them in certain ways or if you shoot off certain things, you can get better salvage, and obviously changes the way that the enemies fight as well, depending how you attack them. And it's just so it just makes every single combat encounter fun. Like there's just no chance of it getting repetitive, and it's only on a very few, the very few machines that you fight in the kind of opening portion of the game before you go out into the west. So um yeah, I'm just so excited because I know I've barely scratched the surface, and it's about to probably sprawl out and get absolutely huge. So yeah, really really enjoying it, but mostly like really excited to see what's gonna happen as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of the bugs you've encountered. I've had that same kind of thing where, especially with climbing, so you have the ability to see what you can grab onto, and
Mm.
I found myself. It's like the game still, even though they've created these areas that you can actually grab onto. I find Aloy like doing these weird, like her animation trying to snap to the actual things to grab, and it's very strange.
Yeah,
Or sometimes you just get stuck, even though you
yeah,
can keep going. It's very strange. Or there was a one point, it's later on in the game, I'm walking around and that same yellow visual cue for you to grab onto a ledge is just on a rock on the
yeah,
floor. And it's like,
yeah,
okay, well, I can't climb that, but it's like it's just there. So I'm like, okay,
yeah.
almost like it's auto-generated, but it's just little bugginess like that I've encountered.
Yeah, I think the platforming in general is pretty frustrating as well at times. But I don't know whether I just need to play a little bit more, and maybe because I've just unlocked like the glide thing, so I'm not sure if that's going to help a little bit. And but yeah, there was a one of the like ancient ruins. It took me honestly about like 2 hours just to figure out where I was meant to go, and it's like only like a small little like log house. And yeah, I was just stuck in there for ages, like moving crates around and struggling struggling on that bit. So I think yeah, I think the only sort of negatives I really have so far are yeah the kind of buggy platforming, and I think maybe sometimes it can be a little bit confusing as to where you're meant to go as well.
Yeah, and some of those areas are almost like little mini platforming puzzles where they want you to move stuff
Mm.
around and try to figure it out, but some are just flat out hard to understand or like to actually traverse because you're right with there's a little bit of floatiness with the platforming that was in the first game, but and you kind of get used to it, but they could kind of calibrate that a little bit. But I noticed playing the game, I think what's extended my time playing it is just stopping to go into photo mode. And I don't know if you're that same kind of photo mode person, but I just love doing it. And these are photos that no one cares about, no one will ever see, but I just love stopping the action and seeing stuff, and it just looks so good. It's really insane to watch unfold. But my wife was sitting next to me as we first booted up the game, and while it's incredible to look at, I find the hair on Aloy sometimes like takes me out of it because it's just moving so much, like just to kind of show that they have
Yeah,
the physics ability to replicate this, and
has a
it's
mind
like
of its own.
yeah, I'm keep thinking like, real okay, you can do it, but take it easy. It's like just kind of tone it down a little bit because it's ridiculous at points.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I haven't noticed that too much, but yeah, I definitely noticed that. Yeah, you can tell that they're very proud of the kind of hair physics that they've got. Even like to the point where there's a character who's like, I don't know if you noticed, but he had like half shaved hair, but like half of it was kind of growing as well. It's like a really
Uh,
strange kind of hairstyle. Almost like it had been, like in WWE when you had like Kane and he had like really patchy kind
okay,
of buzz cut hair. It was kind of like that, and I kind of thought, I think that maybe they're just trying to show, they can really like show off any kind of
every
hairstyle.
follicle is there and everything.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, I think it's definitely something they're trying to sort of influence. But why not? If it's there, then absolutely use it. But yeah, I think you're right. There are definitely times when you're like, right, okay, yeah, you're just flexing off your hair physics now.
A little bit, a little bit.
Yeah.
There was some news-related stuff with Horizon that I wanted to transition into. One of them was so the Metacritic score was an 88, which is super duper high. I think the original Horizon was right around there too. So there was maybe some outlets kind of referencing how it's overall getting the same kind of scores. That wasn't a huge downside for me. I think they still improved on a lot. But there was this controversial thing that happened, and I think you bought it afterwards. But I was super excited, so I wanted to pre-download the game. But initially, there was that free upgrade from PS4 to PS5, so you could save $10 by getting that PS4 version. But Sony held that hostage by not letting you pre-download unless you bought the PS5 version. So I found myself just breaking and getting that full blown PS5 version. But it was this kind of sketchiness that I think Sony is intentionally doing, where and they kind of pretend to be oblivious to it. It's like, oh, I don't know, there's a PS5 version, but then that
Yes.
PS4 upgrade thing doesn't unlock until the game goes live. So it kind of punishes people that want to play it right then and there. But did you have any thoughts on that? I know you bought it afterwards.
Yeah, did see that there was like a kind of way around saving like a tenner or whatever, but I didn't know about the pre-download thing. I just bought it. I remember thinking when I was sort of searching on the store for it, I remember thinking, oh, maybe I can't buy the PS4 version on the PS5. I'd have to like buy it on the PS4 and then upgrade. Um, so I didn't like kind of even bother searching for it. I just was kind of like, you know what, I'll just bite the bullet and pay what it's kind of worth, I suppose. But yeah, I did see that there was kind of like something going around about being able to get it on PS4.
Yeah, it's just kind of it rubbed me the wrong way, but at the same time, I had no issues with how Horizon. It was Forza Horizon did this where it was a free Game Pass game, but
Mm.
it unlocked early if you paid $20, I think, to get. But then that got you also the DLC pass for the entire year. And I
Yeah.
did that because I was just super duper excited. I just paid the $20 instead of getting it as a free, Game Pass game or part of that service. But I had no issues doing that. But with this one, it felt like
Yeah,
they were
it's not really
intentionally trying to hide it.
communicated. Yeah. 'Cause if they sort of come out and they said something about it so that you at least knew, then you'd sort of look at it in a different light. You'd be like, "Oh, okay, I just need to spend like an extra $10 to play it early, essentially, or to preload it." Um, which isn't necessarily a good thing, but at least that way and it doesn't seem like you're being kind of snuck on and
Right.
sort of blindsided by it.
Yeah, if they're more clear on it, and we'll talk about GT7, some of the somewhat similar thing with Sony going forward, where they kind of want to try and get, and their business, I get it, they're a corporation, they want to get as much money as possible, but they could be a bit more um, just revealing, honest with what's going on, and sometimes that rubs me the wrong way. But to kind of cap off Horizon Forbidden West, yeah, I'm super far into it, and I'm loving it. I just can't get enough of this game. Although I wonder, and I have this question on the dock because it's almost 5 years to the date since the original Horizon released. Do you think it's going to take that long for the next entry, whether they do a sequel or something else, or could there be a split dev cycle where they hopefully have something like a Killzone in the mix as well, or do you think we're going to wait a while before we see anything from Gorilla?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously it all depends on how Horizon 2 plays out, and sort of until I can kind of maybe guess what's sort of coming next. But yeah, I mean, I think if it's going to play out like I think it will, then it would make sense to probably stick to it. I think with things like Killzone, you see so many studios now that are able to kind of take over, an IP from someone else and do it justice. And with the amount of like people kind of swapping and changing studios as well, sometimes it doesn't really matter what studio is doing it because might not even be the same team that were there initially anyway. So, um, but yeah, uh, I think sticking to Horizon would probably make sense for them, or at least not going back to something like Killzone, just because I think that maybe they've moved on to pastures anew with this kind of genre.
Yeah, and I just kind of look forward to the future, but I'm sure they have way more on their plate than they can handle already. So it's, they're working with Firesprite for that Horizon Call of the Mountain on PSVR 2. And then I have to imagine, just like the original Horizon, there's some kind of DLC that they're working on maybe next year. So they've got enough to work on. We talk about it, every pod, it seems like, but it's like you have Killzone on the table. Why leave it there? But maybe and I think definitely another studio could take it over and could still kind of replicate that feel to it. But I'm just hoping that it's not forever until we get something from Gorilla here, but hopefully just not leaving Killzone on the table.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I mean, there's so many sort of things that it's nice to see sort of return, but then again, we never know what kind of IPs are on the horizon as well. There could be something that in 10 years' time is similar to Killzone in sort of in like a suitable replacement kind of way. So um, yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I love Killzone and Resistance obviously, and I'd love to see them come back.
Yeah, same here. Well, we'll keep hoping. Maybe one of these days
Yeah,
we'll get something from them. But
yeah,
moving on here. So I don't know how big of a Gran Turismo fan you are. I think we're both kind of on the same page, but Gran Turismo 7 just launched. I want to say, what was it, last week? It's pretty recent. It's got an 88 Metacritic. There has been some drama with the microtransactions, but before we get into that, are you excited for it? How do you feel about Gran Turismo 7?
yeah. I think I'll definitely pick it up at some point. Maybe not sort of soon, but I'm sure I'll end up getting it at some point and giving it a go. I like racing games in general, and they like I tend to not maybe play them um, sort of for massively long amounts of time, but I do like to dip my toes in. So yeah, I think I'll probably pick it up maybe if I have like some spare space in my backlog, which is always difficult to find.
Yeah, same here. It's just like, especially lately, it's just been, and we'll get into Elden Ring if you have thoughts later on, but it's just been these bangers, left and right. And it's still the first, what, 3 months of
Mm.
2022. It's just these really top notch experiences coming out of the gate. And it's hard to, find the time to get into the backlog, let alone the actual games that are coming out right now.
Yeah,
But there was some drama with this, the microtransactions. I won't get into the full article, but it's from VGC.com explaining how some of the actual cars that you can buy can get up to $40 when in GT Sport they're about $3 US, and this wasn't revealed until after the actual reviews came out because they didn't go live on the service until servers and everything connected. But do you have any issues with how they've handled this? I don't have much of an experience with GT7 and how they or GT Sport and how they rolled out these additional cars, or if you can just grind naturally within the game and it's or if it's something that's more predatory. But what do you think about some of this stuff?
yeah. Unfortunately, it's just not. It's not like a surprise anymore, is it? I mean, if you look at games like FIFA and these games where you can easily spend like £30 in one go in a hope that you buy a pack with essentially something that you don't even know what's inside it. So I think these like ridiculous amounts of money on microtransactions are pretty much the same across the board if you look deep enough. So obviously it's not good, but yeah, it's just unfortunately the way things seem to be now. But is Gran Turismo 7, does it have like a base price, or is it, because I know people that are talking about it being free to play. I haven't really kept that much up to date with its release.
Yeah, it is a full blown like PS5 $70 title, and so this is something that's additional. But I just don't know enough if what that path is within the campaign to unlock these games naturally. If it's
Right.
way too long, or these things aren't even approachable or unlockable within playing the
Yeah.
normal game. So I just don't know enough. But I did see a lot of negativity on Twitter online with people realizing after the fact that these prices have increased.
Yeah, it's never nice to see, especially if it's like a full price game. Um, yeah, like you said, it's difficult to know sort of the whole story without, because yeah, they could just be like shortcuts, I guess, and they could be fairly reasonable to get. But normally, if there's a shortcut, then that sort of idea has probably gone into the kind of design of how grindy it is, kind of give it a need for a microtransaction, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and one other thing I noticed with some of the reviewers, they got some criticism online, different outlets, because they were kind of negative on how much time GT7 spends on the history of cars and different makes and models, and they have a full blown like museum that you can interact and go into the history of just cars in general and all these different companies. They found that it's really just for car lovers, and then car fans were chiming up as they do online, saying like you're criticizing the game because it's about cars or focuses on
Yeah.
cars and the history of it. Which, but I get what they were saying, where it's like it's if you just kind of want to drive around, if you're a fan of arcade stuff, this one is really super laser focused on just the minutia of cars and everything about them. But I noticed they got some of that criticism online. Do you have any issues with them kind of focusing on the history of stuff?
No, not at all. I think obviously it's like an optional thing as well. Um, So yeah, not at all. I think it's really cool that they've done that. It's sort of they know their audience, and um, it's nice to kind of have that kind of avenue for people who do love cars. Because there's that there's not many games where they can get that kind of information sort of from. So I'm sure it's great for them. I mean, it's almost like saying, um, oh, don't play Mass Effect if you just want to shoot aliens and just like see the story because they've got like a massive codex with loads of lore in it.
Right.
It's like doesn't it doesn't affect the main sort of core of the game. If it's a racing game, then you should really judge on how well it races, and if there's any additional content like that, then I think maybe take a look at it a little bit more objectively than because that's not really like it's kind of a secondary part of it. So if it's not for you, then maybe it's worth kind of seeing why it's not.
Yeah, and it's something like you said, it's there if you want it. I don't think the game is kind of banging over the head with it. I did see some criticism with so many menus, to jump
Yeah,
around, but
yeah.
that's fair with just like calibrating the experience of playing it. But they understand that they want it to be this like slower, kind of just detailed, respecting the world of cars kind of experience compared to say Forza Horizon, where it's just there's EDM music playing in the background. They throw you in a car and you can run over mailboxes. It's like a different experience. But I like that at least with Polyphony, they really calibrate what they want it to be, and it's like a different experience completely.
Yeah, they're impossible to in a lot of ways to compare, I think. Just like completely different experiences that just so happen to both be, driven by cars. Um, I think yeah, if you're going to compare any series, you'd probably compare is it Forza Motorsport to it?
Right.
I guess that would be the most similar because it's just track racing. Um, and games like Race Driver Grid and things like that as well. So yeah, I think it's difficult to compare it to Horizon because yeah, you just have a completely different time with that. You play Horizon and you can switch off and just really lay back and have fun on it. Whereas Gran Turismo is very sit forward and sort of focus on what you're doing.
Yeah, let's see. GT7 is like they give you an espresso, and Horizon they give you a Four Loko or Red Bull, and they just kick you out the door. But I just love that there's these different experiences, and people can choose accordingly. These ones are just a bit too simulation for me, but I respect them a lot, and I find myself just liking to watch footage because it's so gorgeous, of a game. I think they've really excelled at that with the PS5 version of this, and I do want to try the DualSense because it seems like, as we talked before, that's a real like step forward, just having that vibration, the haptic feedback, and I do want to try it for that sake.
Yeah, I think that's going to be massive as well. It's because it's such like a new sort of addition to kind of just the whole immersion of games is the much more advanced haptic sort of technology we have now. Which I don't think we've probably seen even a surface scratch of that. But even like in games like Horizon, I'm finding now where it really utilizes it, it really does make a difference. Um, sort of in just how you generally experience the game. So I think in a game like Gran Turismo, I think it can be huge to how that game feels to play.
Yeah, it's a big deal, and I even found myself. So I played Dying Light 2 on PC, and there's times where I wanted to play in my living room. And so, long story short, I could do that, but I found the controller vibration would kind of cut in and out. And there's times where you're picking a lock, and you use that vibration to really feel
Right.
what you're doing. And just to bring that back to the dual sense, it's like it's so important now, and you kind of take for granted just vibration as a base level in a controller, but it really does make a difference. And so I love that Sony is focusing on that as something to improve on going forward and making this controller feel like this is a next gen thing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think yeah, it's going to be really, really important going forwards, and I think more and more people are going to expect it from their games as well.
Yep, I agree. So we'll transition out of that. So GT7 has launched. We have some news on Sifu. So I don't know if did you get the chance to play Sifu? Is it on your radar?
I've always thought it looks interesting, but I think when it came out and I heard how difficult it was, I thought maybe I do want to play at some point, but I thought maybe I'll just give it a miss for the moment, just with the amount of games that I have on my list to play.
Yeah, I've learned my lesson repeatedly. So I've talked about before, but like Demon Souls, especially Returnal, where if they're, I get the vibe that they're very hard. I kind of realize it's maybe not for me. But we have some news on Sifu, so it has sold over 1 million copies, and we have difficulty options coming soon. So this is right up my alley. It's from GameSpot here with the details. 3 weeks after launch, Kung Fu action game Sifu has sold over 1 million copies so far. Developed by Slow Clap, the challenging brawler has only been completed by 15% of its players so far, according to Trophy Stats. The latest patch is now live on PC and will be coming to PlayStation consoles on March 7th. So for that patch, we got Mandarin, Chinese voice overs added to the game, multiple exploits and infinite loots fixed, so different bugs and stuff. But also, so this is before this patch notes were revealed. Slowclap also revealed that accessibility options are in the works for a future update, along with difficulty options similar to Metroid Dread's recent update, with both easier and harder modes to be added. And this got me very excited because maybe I can actually play this game. Do you have any issues with, because it's an ongoing conversation of the whole difficulty thing. Do you have any issues with this game adding these adjustments?
No, so I think either way, if a developer chooses not to add it or to add it, I think either way they probably know best. So the fact that they feel like this is going to be okay to add this, then it means that it'll probably work out well and won't ruin the integrity of the game. Because I think if so, then perhaps they would have been a bit more steadfast and just left it as it is.
Yeah, and it's I hate to do the same kind of conversation we have with difficulty, so I'll skip over some stuff, but I think of Elden Ring and how obviously the Souls games are incredibly hard and brutal, but this latest one has sold an incredible amount. It's been like top of Steam charts with concurrent players. So I have these thoughts where it's like if you add these options, then that game is more approachable, more people buy it. But then you have Elden Ring going, nope, we're gonna go the other direction, make it super hard, and still sell a bunch of copies. So I don't know what you do really. And then I think you're right where it comes down to the devs. If they want to do it, cool, and if they don't, then I respect that as well.
Yeah, I think with games like Dark Dark Souls and Elden Ring and things, these are games, and you look at like other RPGs, especially JRPGs, which never had difficulty settings or anything, but were very difficult, and I think that's a big part of those games is grinding to be more powerful, and it's the same with roguelites as well. I think that's why these kinds of games don't need difficulty settings because part of the fun is grinding to become stronger so you can overcome these difficult enemies. Um, Whereas I think a game like Sifu is a bit more linear, probably a little bit more. I mean, I know it is I guess technically a roguelite, but um, it doesn't seem like it has as many complicated systems as your general roguelike would. So I think with this kind of game, it makes sense to have multiple difficulties because I don't think difficulty is necessarily the main like satisfaction thing about it. I think that's more just the cool combos, the cool kind of fighting, and the general sort of game itself.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's always tied back to this difficulty conversation. But I do find myself as I get older trying to let things slide where I realizing that not everything is going to be for me at the end of the day, and having to be able to make that peace and shake the hand with the game and walk away and realize like that's even though I would love to jump into it. Same with Returnal. It's like that world is so cool and interesting and beautiful with Elden Ring, with a lot of the Souls games, Bloodborne. It's a bummer because I want to be part of that fan base and experience that game, but it just might not be for me. And I think I need to be okay with being fine with that and just saying, okay, that's just not for me. There's already enough out there where it's like, as I complain about not being able to play these games, there's plenty of games that I can't play that I don't. So it's like, what am I complaining about?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You can't play everything, so you have to play the games that are scratching the itches you currently have, I suppose.
I'll just jump back into Minecraft, and that's already hard enough for me. So I'm all set. So speaking of Returnal, got some news on that. Housemarque's next game won't be a Returnal sequel. It's from IGN. Housemarque's next game won't be a Returnal sequel, according to comments from studio managing director Lauri Kutinen in a recent VentureBeat interview stating, "It's early days with us starting a new game, a new IP, concepting it out. We'll see what comes with that." Even though it sounds like Housemarque may not return to Returnal for a full game, a tweet from last November sparked speculation that we could be getting some sort of DLC in the future. And Sony acquired Finnish studio Housemarque back in June 2021. Too many 20s. Callum, how do you feel about Housemarque maybe not jumping back into that Returnal world and working on something different?
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think that, it's what Returnal have always done. They've always, made a kind of standalone-ish experience, then moved on to something else, and I think that's worked really well for them before. So yeah, I think it's cool, and it's just exciting to kind of know that their kinds of minds are working on something completely fresh.
Yeah, I'm of two minds where even though it's a game I can't play, I want to see what their sequel would look like. It's a really cool world, and I don't know if story wise they really put a cap on it and end it, but I feel like you could do something in this universe still, maybe not with the same character, but I would love to see what that would look like, similar to Ben with Days Gone. It's like I didn't really care for Days Gone, but I wanted to see what that sequel would have been, and maybe they would have clicked with me better. And so same with Returnal. But I also wonder if Housemark is, I think they're still relatively small, and now Sony has acquired them. Maybe they can beef up, but do they have enough people on hand to also work on something else and then work on a Returnal sequel? I wonder, or do you think it's just full force? They're going to leave this alone and do something else?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could just be that they did what they wanted with Returnal. I mean, it's their first foray into that kind of space, the real kind of higher budget AAA kind of space. So maybe that allowed them to, learn lots of lessons and sort of be ready for something completely fresh now. It could have just been, the game they needed to kind of find their way into, something that's relatively new for them in terms of sort of scope. And so now they can kind of maybe make their, something that they've been thinking about for longer, or, you never know what kind of projects have been waiting behind the scenes for sort of a moment like this.
Yeah, and I do find myself either way very excited because I just love what Housemark does, even if not everything clicks with me. They have this style of adding this kind of bullet hell stuff to everything they do and making it fun. And I have similar feelings with man, I had that locked and loaded in my brain, and now I'm blanking Remedy with Control, where it's like you just tell me Remedy's making something and I'm on board. And so same with Housemark. So whatever they do, I know they're gonna have that same kind of style to it, and it's gonna fit within their repertoire of stuff. So I'm just whatever they do, I'm super excited for it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly the same. Yeah, really, really look forward to seeing what they do, and hopefully it'll be something that I won't get my ass absolutely beaten on.
It will, and that's also one of their style things too. All right, Cal, on the next one here. So we're getting close to some kind of announcement, I think, from PlayStation on their Game Pass competitor, but we got some stuff leaked about it, possibly from industry insider Jeff Grubb from Giant Bomb. So he reveals possible pricing tier to Sony's upcoming Game Pass rival. So I'll list some of the tiers here, but this Project Spartacus that kind of wraps these different services like PS Now, PS Plus together. Here's possibly what they're going with the pricing. So we have PS Plus Essential, which would be the first tier of this new service, has your monthly games like PlayStation Plus, so your 3 or 4 free monthly games. And then going beyond that, the mid tier, PS Extra is what they're calling it, at least the placeholder. You got the monthly games, you have the access to a game catalog. I'm not sure if it's the same like PS4 classics that you get on PS5, those same free games. Then beyond that, oh, I'm skipping on the pricing. So that base one, $10, the mid tier 13. For the premium $16 price, you get those same two things. You also get game streaming, which is part of PS Now. You get access to classic games. And I think that's what people are really driving home is going to be a big difference between what Game Pass does. And then you have game trials, which is some kind of demo time mode kind of thing. If this is legit, how do you feel about these pricing tiers and them switching up and really combining these services together?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's a good thing. It sounds like they're adding a lot of kind of functionality to something that already works well. It's just a lot, isn't it? It just looks like this is the way everything's going. Um, and yeah, it just going to be sport for choice even more than we already are for games. So obviously it's great. I'm just worried about how many games I'm gonna have to play now. But
Yeah,
it might cure my need for resistance, hopefully, if it means that I can play those on the PS5.
true. Yeah, do you have Um, does that excite you, the option of having access to hopefully their entire catalog? But right now we just know classic games, whatever that means, maybe PS1, PS2. But does that make you interested in subscribing to that highest tier of whatever the service is going to be?
Yeah, I think I'll probably end up doing that. Just because it it's not it's kind of negligible, like the difference between the two. And you get that massive sort of fear of missing out when you see sort of, oh, I don't have that tier, so I don't get access to this month, and so I know that I'll just eventually end up doing it. So yeah, I think I might as well just bite the bullet right away. I might like get rid of a few other subscriptions that I have that maybe I don't use as much to kind of offset the price as well.
Yeah, especially with PS Now, I've jumped in every once in a while, but just don't have any interest in streaming stuff. And if they can kind of encompass it together, have it part of that classic game bundle, I'm more likely to just go, okay, it's a couple more bucks from what I already pay, jump in there. But yeah, it's just I've tried various streaming things, and it never works one for one. Where I will deal with it sometimes, but I just end up going back to actually having the game on my console. But yeah, do you have the streaming side of things? Are you very excited about that?
I think, I mean, now I've got to get into that. I probably should start getting excited about that, but just not yet. I just don't. I just don't know. I mean, I've used sort of Parsec a little bit, which is kind of like a PC streaming thing where you can stream sort of a PC that's somewhere else. Um, and that works quite well. But yeah, I think if you have the option to not stream, then it's probably better to do that. I think it'd be different if we had some sort of like PlayStation handheld device that kind of could tap into this, or like if we could get like a phone to tap into it as well or something. But if it's just on a console, then I don't know why you wouldn't just download the game, unless of course they don't tackle this PS3 backwards compatibility.
That could be it too. That's where you're gonna have to lean on that to play these PS3 games because of that cell chip. But yeah, it's interesting. And I opened up the conversation with hopefully Sony has some kind of imminent announcement. And leading into this Game Rant article, some new PS Plus subscribers claim they're getting PlayStation Now for free. So as reported by IGN, Italia, and PlayStation Lifestyle, some NeoGAF users have been getting a free PlayStation Now subscription upon renewing their PS Plus. Usually, PlayStation gamers would have to subscribe to each service separately. While it's possible this is because Sony's gearing up to launch Project Spartacus, it's also entirely possible that it's just a PlayStation Store bug and doesn't mean anything. Some may recall when PS3 games appeared on the PlayStation Store, which itself was used as evidence that Sony was getting ready to launch its Game Pass competitor. Nothing came out of that. Do you think that, because there's rumors that we're going to get a March PS director or PS State of Play announcing some stuff. Do you think we're going to get some kind of official announcement from Sony soon?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems that something's imminent, unless the people kind of spreading these rumors are really, really good at doing that.
Right.
But yeah, it seems like yeah, something's happening. So yeah, it'll be exciting to see kind of because if it is as big as it kind of sounds, and it could really change, the way we can access games, and it could ultimately add a lot of games to be played as well.
Now, I do fear, and there is some news around the internet the past couple weeks with Nintendo because they have their subscription service with classic games, and they've mentioned publicly that they have no interest in offering games a la carte anymore. They want to kind of shuffle
Mm.
people into the service, which means that they can choose to add stuff, remove it whenever they want, and you're kind of stuck with whatever those options are for playing classic games. So I do fear that that's going to also influence these other companies like Xbox, PlayStation, where no longer can you just buy a flat out game, an older game. You have to have this service to play these games. And this conversation of keeping these older games alive. Do you have any fear that as we go forward, it's all going to be subscription based, and you can't buy these games, at least older games, anymore?
Yeah, I hope not. Yeah, because I think people are just so used to being able to buy games and then sort of with that kind of feeling that you then have them forever. So hopefully it doesn't go down that route. But yeah, I wouldn't I wouldn't be massively surprised if there were kind of examples of that happening sort of more often.
Yeah, it's I worry about that, but also it's like I don't play a lot of older games, so it's like I'm in this weird where I want it to still be stored that way, where you can still have that option, but I don't do it myself. I'm just weary about the future and everything going online. It's going to be weird, but also this is kind of the way it's going. So to transition here, we got Elden Ring. We talked about a little bit before. I just wanted to kind of touch on it because it's huge. It's all over the internet. So it has a 97 Metacritic, which is one of the highest rated games, of all time. It's in that category where it's just this evergreen kind of game right out the gate. Do you have thoughts on Elden Ring? Are you going to want to play it? Is this too hard for you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think I mean with FromSoft games, the only ones I've really played are Sekiro and Bloodborne, and I really enjoyed my time at both, but I didn't finish either of them. I just got to the kind of final boss and decided that was sort of enough. But I think Elden Ring looks really, really good. And for a while, I've been kind of playing with the idea of maybe going back and playing through all the Dark Souls games, which I hadn't done before. And yeah, I mean, I've been seeing like my friends playing it, and it does look really, really great. And I think when a game comes out to this kind of acclaim sort of across the board, like you don't see any sort of negative words really about it, then you know that it's obviously something worth playing.
Yeah, and so I'm historically, I'm too dumb to play these games, but they always when they come out, it's like maybe this one. And there's bits that I'll hear of Elden Ring where because of the open world aspect, I mean, from a lot of people, it kind of changes that experience where you can, as you get frustrated, you can leave and tackle something else, and so it's somewhat more approachable. And so I find myself very interested in maybe this is the one for me. But at the end of the day, I don't know. But how do you feel about them adding this open world aspect to these Souls games?
Well, at first I wasn't sort of massively keen on the idea, but then when sort of I saw actually how it works sort of in the game, I think it looks great, and I think it looks really interesting to explore, and I think it suits the that kind of gameplay where you're encouraged to grind and get better, and find lots of different items that might help you against certain things. Just that really classic kind of RPG game direction. I think works really well in open worlds, and I think Elden Ring's really sort of worked on that clearly. And yeah, I'll definitely jump into it and give myself a headache soon.
Yeah, I do think I want to actually try and not learn from my lessons and play this game. It just looks so interesting. Like I felt the same way about Bloodborne, and I was texting my buddy Gavin, who we do Plastic Hearts with. We are both sharing screenshots, and I'm playing a Horizon and sending him just like the most beautiful stuff I've ever seen. And he's like, "Yeah, it doesn't look that good over here, but I think where they excel with the Souls games, especially, but Elden Ring for sure, it's just so unique and interesting. Where you want to learn about the world, the monsters, the enemies are just so gross and weird looking. Where they excel in this art direction and maybe not the, I guess, visual quality overall. But what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think sort of generally, I mean, if talk about like visual quality, I think that perhaps they do have. I wouldn't say it looks bad by any stretch, but it's definitely. I don't know. Would you say it's kind of maybe like an art style or something? They definitely have their own look, but it maybe when you look at a game like Horizon 2, it definitely doesn't quite hold up in from that angle, I don't think.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I wonder if that's part of because the engine itself, it seems like they're using the same engine that they've used for a while. But I think that's key to aspects of like timing and
Yeah,
making sure the game
absolutely.
feels like everything. So, but
Yeah.
because of that, using that engine, which they can only prove so much, I guess they're stuck with whatever visual capacity it can handle. And so there's that trade off. But you have to make sure those controls are absolutely one for one for Souls players. Because if that's broken or wonky at all, it's like you have the internet on fire.
Yeah, and I think it's a massive identity thing as well. They all you can tell it's a FromSoft game just by looking at like 5 seconds of footage. So I think, like I said, I don't think they look bad by any stretch. They definitely have their own kind of look, and I don't think it's massively important anyway. But yeah, I think you do get people who just kind of maybe haven't played them or enjoyed them and just kind of look at like a video and not really understand the kind of it's similar stuff when we talk about Resident Evil 4. It has that very particular like mood, like visually to it that just is like not it goes past sort of whether it looks old or new or whatever. And I think FromSoft games sort of have that, and I think it's important, most important to kind of keep that throughout as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm interested in this. I think I'm gonna be, doing the same thing like I do every time with these games where I jump in and it's way too hard. But I do want to try it. Maybe try and wait for a sale. I think I've seen it cheaper on PC. Maybe I jump in there, but I'm very excited. I do want to try this game.
Yeah, I've heard it's a bit cheaper as well than most games. I mean, over here I think it's like £50, which
Mm,
is even like PS4 games weren't £50, so it's nice to see it being reasonably priced as well.
right, right. I would really benefit from a demo, being able to try it, but I don't foresee that happening. But really, it's like you know what you're getting if you played any other games. So that's where I go back to, okay, it's just going to be too hard for me, but it's always that glimmer of hope that maybe I could actually, and then I just need one where I fully crack it and then I'm on board, but I need one to
Yeah.
kind of get me in there.
I think the problem with a demo for this kind of game is like you will hate it the entire time on a demo just because I guess like they don't get massively sort of enjoyable until you sort of start to resemble something sort of decent sort of at the
Right.
game. So
Yeah,
yeah, you might get a demo and then decide not to play it.
true. Yeah, you have to have that breakthrough moment. I think it happens
Yeah,
differently for everyone, but it's like wherever that time is, that's where it clicks for you. And it could be a couple hours into this thing.
yeah, yeah. It could be yeah, tons of hours in.
Yep. So we'll transition to this next one here. Um, it's about the Ukraine and the influence on the gaming world. But I want to chat on this because it's also weird to like not talk about it. And we've in the past talked about really, we were through COVID, talking about that in real time. And with this one, it's such a huge event. It's like, how do you not? But there is that overlap where it affects the gaming world. So here we go. But we got Ukraine asked PlayStation, Xbox, and many more to stop supporting Russia. This is from GameSpot here. In an open letter published via Twitter, Deputy Prime Minister of Ukraine, Mikhailo Fedorov, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, has called on the gaming industry, specifically Xbox and PlayStation, to put more pressure on Russia, currently involved in an invasion of Ukraine. Russia has been met with swift sanctions from across the globe as punishment for its unprovoked military attack. Fedorov later opened up the request, further including Epic Games, Nintendo, Rockstar, 2K, Bandai Namco. CD Projekt Red and Blooper Team have both taken the step of halting sales in Russia and Belarus, a move that includes GOG. Since his open letter, many studios and publishers have reacted by donating considerable amounts of humanitarian aid, as well as halting game sales in Russia, including CD Projekt Red, Embracer Group, Ubisoft, Quantic Dream, Pokemon Company, 11-Bit Studios, EA, and more. How do you feel about at least the overlap into the gaming industry with them, pretty much rallying and raising funds and halting sales, turning off live service games in Russia?
Yeah, I think it's anything anyone can do um, is obviously needed. It doesn't matter sort of what it is, how relevant it is to reality. Well, I say reality, but I mean like how sort of serious something is. So maybe the games industry wouldn't be necessarily taken seriously on that kind of stage. But if it can help in any way, then yeah, it's important. That 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 it can in any way.
Yeah, it's it's crazy. It's hard to be over here and just like read stuff about it and feel like what can you do? And there's people actually dealing with the repercussions in real time and having their their houses, the places that they live bombed and having to leave. It's just it's terrible. And it's at least cool to see these companies do something and raise money and try and rally some support. But it's just a bummer being over here and just hearing these horror stories. But I just don't know what you do besides, definitely like donating stuff, but I just don't know what you can do over here. And I think of the rippling effects of, all out world war. And it's just, what do you do, man? It sucks.
Yeah, I think it's definitely scary because of how I think it's much scarier to everyone because obviously it's much closer to home as well, which is obviously easy easy for us to say, but um, yeah, it's not good at all. And I think the only kind of silver lining you can have is that there's going to be big changes hopefully after this. Hopefully, de-escalates or doesn't break out into anything more serious. Is that hopefully something good can come from sort of this kind of combined sort of alliance against this kind of horrible, tyrannical man.
Yeah, it's crazy, and where it's still unfolding in real time. There's updates within the day every day, so we'll continue to watch it, and it's nuts. But yeah, at least we see some positivity within the game industry supporting Ukraine. But yeah, we'll end it there. What do you have any big plans? Assuming we're still alive, do you have any big plans for this next week coming up?
No, just as usual, working, playing Horizon probably, hopefully getting through that. I've got lots and lots of games that I want to play. I know the new Borderlands
It's
is
coming up
due
soon, Tiny
soon.
Tina.
Yeah, which very very excited for that. So that'll probably be my next game after after Horizon. But yeah, not nothing terribly exciting planned on my end, unfortunately. How about yourself?
Now, Callum, shut up. You got to go watch the Batman movie. I don't know
Oh
what you're
yes,
doing.
you're right.
You're always
Actually,
like, "Oh,
yeah,
there's too many superhero movies and blah blah blah." It's like, dude, Batman, it's so dope. I just watched it on Friday night.
yeah.
You got to watch it.
Yeah, do you know what? I am actually keen to watch that, and it's not often that I'm excited to watch a film like that. So yeah, I heard it's great. So yeah, I think I will take your advice. I should have taken it earlier for the last duel.
Right?
So I'll do it with this one,
I'm not
and
gonna
then
waste your time with
report back.
recommendations. Like, I'm only gonna find the ones I think you're gonna dig, and you're gonna dig
Yeah,
Batman. It's now you got to buckle up because it's like 3 hours long. So
that's
it's
fine.
okay.
I can do 3 hours.
Now my theater did a intermission, which is like pretty rare. Like it doesn't happen often, but they
Yeah,
picked possibly the worst time to do it. It wasn't any kind of recommended like
yeah.
WB saying like here's where you can stop the film. It's like they just kind of stopped mid conversation.
Yeah.
It's so bad the way they did it, but at least they try to give people a break. But yeah.
Do you remember? I don't know whether it was on VHS or DVD. It might have been on both, but there was kind of like always a pause at the exact halfway point of the movie.
Mm.
Remember that ever being a thing?
Like on every movie?
Yeah, so I think it must have been VHS, I suppose, or it might have been in DVD as well. But yeah, basically when it got to like the exact halfway point of the runtime, it'd be a very, very like noticeable, but like very just noticeable, like skip. So
Hmm.
it'd kind of like freeze for a second and then carry on. And it was always I don't know, it's like one of those weird things that I was just told when I was little. But I mean it was, something that was in like every film. And I remember just always like being told that it was that meant it was the middle of the film and like maybe the reel had to quickly turn or something like that.
Okay, yeah,
Um,
I'm not. It's not ringing a bell, but it's very possible. Like, it does
yeah,
make me think of Titanic, the that movie from what was it, the '90s. Obviously, there's only one Titanic. I don't know why I'm explaining it, but it came out on like two VHSs because that movie was so long. But I don't know where they cut it at what point. But yeah,
trying to see if there's a.
or were you watching maybe like pirated versions of movies, and so that's why there was that cut in the middle?
No, I don't know. Maybe it was just something, like when like your dad like tells you something
Yeah,
that's just not true,
yeah.
and you just believe it your entire life, and even when you're like in your late 20s. I think that might just be one of those things there.
I have that with my dad always told me that if you cross your arms when you're sleeping, you get a bad dream. I think at one point I I realized that like I was doing that and I had a bad dream. So I was like, "Oh, that's I was convinced." Till maybe like 5 years ago, I was honestly like, "Oh, okay, I don't think that does anything to your brain to give you a bad dream, but yeah, I have plenty of those for sure."
Oh, hang on. I found something. It's an article that says, "Why do some DVDs pause in the middle?"
Huh.
It doesn't look very convincing. Like, it looks like someone like me wrote it
Yeah,
to kind of try and, like, make it a thing. Um, so yeah,
interesting. It might be
I
yeah,
don't
because of, actual film that had to, slice stuff together and there's that kind of
yeah.
pause because of that.
This one's saying it's on a DVD, and it's due to the process of the layer changing on the disc.
Mm,
But maybe it is a thing, but I don't know. It must have been DVD then, because also then that kind of backs up because DVD at the time would have been like a new technology, which is when
right.
dads are like in their element of trying to figure out everything about them, and I guess we sort of do it now as kind of adults, where if you get something new and you like research everything about it, like especially if it's like a new technology. So it's probably one of those things where like DVDs are brand new and dads will find out at the same time that they pause in the middle.
That's where they come out of the woodwork when there's any kind of new thing and there's a bit of wiggle
Yeah.
room. That's when dads are like, you know what I heard is this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Nice,
I'll
Callum.
do some extracurricular researching
Yeah,
into
ask your
that.
dad, we'll get him on the pod and he can explain it to us. All right, Cam. Well, awesome. We'll end it there for the week. Where can they find you online?
I am on Twitter at Bear Munro.
Awesome. And you can keep up with the show as well on Twitter at PlasticArtPod. That's it for us this week. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Later.
You're too late. I've already summoned Meteor.
Okay, let's go.